Welcome everybody to NEC Now. This is Ron Ratner, by the way, and I'm joined by a special guest today, Jared Grasso, head coach at Bryant University, former player in the league at Quinnipiac. Jared, thanks for joining us today. How's it going? How's the quarantine for you and your family?
You know, it's day to day. We're plugging along. Family's healthy, so I'm blessed. It's been obviously an interesting time in terms of managing a basketball program and managing my family, but doing the best we can and taking it day by day.
Congrats. I heard we have a new addition coming to the family this summer.
We do. I'll be a girl dad. I have a baby girl due in August, so exciting times there. So things will get a little more hectic around this house in a couple of months.
So you'd be 3/5 on the way to a starting lineup, correct?
There we go.
All right, let's talk about you as growing up as a student athlete. You were a Long Island kid. You played at St. Anthony's. Was basketball in your blood from the get-go growing up?
Yeah, I mean, my father was a coach. I talk about my father all the time. You know, I grew up son of a coach, and I say basketball was put in my hand when I was 3 years old, and I never let go of it. I grew up in the gym. I grew up running around the gym, watching my dad's teams practice. And so something that from a very young age was something I fell in love with very early on. And I was blessed to be around my dad and a lot of great mentors during those years, high school, college, professional coaches, that I was able to learn so much growing up, learn about the game, and most importantly, just develop the passion and love for the game, which for me is the most important thing. It's something I fell in love with, and it's never changed.
You had a heralded high school career. As you were getting recruited, you're looking at Quinnipiac. They're transitioning from D2 to D1 at that time under Joe DeSantis. First of all, tell me about the recruiting process, and was it important for you to play in Division I?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a funny story, not a funny story, but ironic. So my junior year, summer before my junior year, they had the Adidas ABCD camp at Rutgers, best camp ever, Sonny Vaccaro. I went to the Adidas camp, played pretty well, and had a ton of recruitment, had 25 Division I offers. Thought I was going to end up playing at Stanford or some high major school. A week later, I went out to Vegas. I shot about 1 for 52 from the field, came back home, and my recruitment kind of slowed down a little bit. So Coach DeSantis that was there with me from the first day you were allowed to call juniors all the way through in my recruitment, was really aggressive recruiting me. And when he came in, I remember on his home visit, and as Coach D can do with his, his Bronx accent and his New York swagger, came into my living room, and I fell in love with him as a coach and kind of what I thought he could offer me. I knew I could go in and play right away. And that was the most important thing for me. I was one of those guys that I needed to play. If I was going to be sitting on the bench, I wasn't going to be happy. And I knew it was a program. They were going from Division II to Division I and had struggled at the Division II level. And I was confident enough that I just thought, I'm going to go there and we're going to win. And it was Coach DeSantis sold me a vision. And in my mind, it was, we're just going to win. Like, I don't care, Division II, Division I. I didn't even understand it. I knew we were going to be Division I. We're playing UConn in our first game, and we're going to win. And to be honest, it was the best decision I ever made.
So your first year, you actually, Quinnipiac starts off pretty good. You win 4 of your first 6 games, and then you get into league play. Team wins 6 games in their first season in the NEC. Pretty good year. How was your transition from high school to college ball?
Well, I remember my first play of my college career. We're playing UConn. They're number 1 in the country. We're number 300, and there are 315 teams. We were number 315 in the country. I'm guarding Khalid El-Amin. He catches the ball at the top of the key. I get in a defensive stance. He takes a dribble. I'm with him. He takes a second dribble. I'm next to him. He puts his forearm into my chest. I'm on the floor. He's shooting a layup. Dample's going crazy. So it was different than what I'd experienced before. But for me, my first college game, playing in that environment, and I was thrown to the fire. I played 35 minutes a game as a freshman, and I think it was what I wanted. I wanted to play right away. I wanted to play a lot of minutes. I was able to do that. I had a pretty solid freshman year, and that group, when we went from being a 4-win Division II team to a 9-win Division I team, we started to propel the Quinnipiac program.
There were 2 players in the early stages besides yourself that really helped shape the program. You had Nate Pondexter and Bill Romano. So I want to talk about those 2 guys for a second. Now, Nate, to me, is one of those forgotten sort of NEC players along the way, but one of the best. He could do it all. He's the kind of guy that'll lead your team in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. Like, he could just do it all. What did it was 2-time all-conference. What did Nate mean to the program when you arrived?
I mean, he's the best player I ever played with. We still talk all the time. he was special. Like you said, he could do everything. He was really a big point guard. He was today's version of just a player. Could play any position, could guard 1 through 4, could play the 1 through 4, could handle it, could shoot it, made big shots. Unorthodox game, but just a baller. An under the radar guy who nobody heard of, went to junior college in New Hampshire. No one knew who he was, and came in. And he was the guy who, when I came in with that class, me, Bill, Nate, Jamar Fields, I was like, who is this dude? Like, he could play. And I said, we actually got a chance to be pretty good. This dude can go. But he was special, and he was a winner, and he had a smile and a personality that could light up a room, light up a gym, light up an arena. I still see him. He came to our Maryland game this year, and just seeing his smile. He was the kind of guy who'd walk in the locker room, you see his smile, and you feel better. He's just one of those guys you want to be around, which led to great leadership from him as well.
So true. Let's talk Bill Romano. Kind of, sort of, at this point, like an old school, back to the basket, good footwork type of player. Also, good personality. We had so much fun with him in the early days and with Tim Capstraw. How important was Bill to the evolution of Quinnipiac in D1?
Yeah, so when we got to campus, me and Bill met the first day. Obviously, we stepped on campus, and we're best friends ever since. He's my son's godfather. And another one who under-recruited, under the radar. You know, is he too slow? Is he athletic enough? Well, no one could guard him in the post. He still has the best up and under move I've ever seen. Great footwork, great hands, great feet. And you're right, he was kind of a throwback where you really had someone you could throw it into the post to who could score. And he was a winner, and he was tough, and he was competitive, and he was nasty. And the biggest piece of it, like, we all got really close. And it's one of those things that I try and talk to my teams about now. Like, I have a special bond. Like, I have a group chat with my former players, my guys I played with. Like, we all got really close really quickly. And I think it was the reason that those first 2 years we got pretty good. We had a group of guys who loved to play and loved to spend time together. And those two guys were really good players who could have played at a higher level. You know, now with all that level stuff and transfer stuff, those guys, they would have been transferring to Duke and Kentucky. Those guys, they were guys who could play at a higher level, and we ended up together. And it's crazy how it worked out, because great players who ended up having great careers together, and now we're able to talk about it and kind of laugh at the stories of playing for Coach D and some of those times. But those two were like really good players that aren't talked about a lot, but are really, really good players.
Absolutely. So let's go to season 2, your sophomore year. Everything changes this year. You're 12-6 in the conference. You win 18 games. Nate has an MVP level year. You got Billy. Ivory Stanley has a real nice season there. Was heading into that year, was this something you could have anticipated, the leap that the team made?
Yeah, I thought we had 4. That was an interesting group. I thought we had me, Bill, Ivory, Nate. And then Chris Stone was like the solid, just roll guy who could guard, defend, didn't need to shoot the ball, could flow the ball. And we had 4 guys who were double-figure scorers, and we're all different. And we kind of had interchangeable pieces. So I thought that group really just meshed well together. It was one of those teams that had, a little bit of size, had a post player, had a couple flow guys off the bench, and we had 4 double-figure scorers. And I still believe if that team could have played in the conference tournament, and we could have been an NCAA tournament team, we could have beat anybody on any given night. I think it was a talented group that just played very well together.
Agreed. So that year for you personally, you shot over 43% from three-point range, finished second in the league. You know who finished first that year in three-point percentage?
Who was it, Krimmel?
Rob Krimmel did, yep. He just edged you out by percentage points, which is funny now.
If I knew that, I would have got a few more shots up to beat him.
What's the art to being a great three-point shooter?
Repetition. I mean, you got to be in the gym. You got to be a gym rat. I mean, it's funny. I was on a Zoom call with my guys last night, and I was talking about shooting. I said, if you want to be a good shooter, go get in the gym and become a good shooter. Like, you control that. If you take I don't know a lot of guys who take 1,000 shots a day that don't turn themselves into great shooters. So for me, it was about repetition, because I didn't have great form. I'm a son of a coach who didn't have great form. My hand was on the side of the ball. I didn't have proper backspin. My dad tried to change my shot multiple times. Stubborn kid I was. I fought it. I said, I'm making shots. Why are we changing it? I probably should have listened and probably would become a better shooter, but I got a ton of shots up every day. I mean, a day didn't go by where I didn't get 500 to 1,000 shots up. So it's the work you put in. I tell you, what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And I was a gym rat. I loved it. I want to be in the gym. I want to be a great player.
Junior season now, you are now eligible for the NEC tournament first time, but team struggles. You add a good piece in Kason Mims that year, who becomes an all-time great kind of at the school. But the team struggles. How hard was that season for you, knowing you only got 2 more shots at this?
Yeah, that was a really difficult year for me personally. My back problems started that season. We kind of had good guys, but just not the right mix. And it was a talented group. And that's why, like, on paper, that team was just as talented as the year before. We went to Ireland the summer before that season, and, like, we thought we were going to be very good. We added Kareem Lee, we added Colin Charles, Kason Mims. So I think we thought we had a chance to be very good, and the team didn't mesh. It didn't fit, and I think we underachieved. Kind of mid-year that year, I started having some back problems that I just continued to play through, but that's kind of when the downfall of my body kind of started. But we struggled that year. It wasn't a great year. Just the group didn't fit together.
So you got one more chance as a senior, your own last dance right there. And Coach DeSantis brings in 2 key players. He brings in Jeremy Bishop, one of the great natural rebounders in league history, and Rob Monroe, one of the fastest players I've ever seen with the ball in his hand. How did those 2 change the dynamic in your senior season?
I mean, Rob is one of the best players ever to play in Quinnipiac, probably ever to play in the league. Just he came in as he was a little kid. I remember he came on his official visit and we played pickup, and I was like, this kid can play. They can pull up threes from 25 feet, going by guys with his speed. He was prepared to play as a freshman, and Jeremy was just a man. I mean, like you said, best rebounder I ever played with, had a nose for the ball, would throw his body anywhere, diving into the wall, diving into steets for loose balls. Just a tough blue collar, one of the best rebounders in the country. And I think his toughness and rebounding changed our culture a little bit. And it was a fresher group. There was a freshness to that group. Rashawn Banjo started to turn the corner a little bit. Kason was a year older and a year better. So I think that group was where we started to turn the corner again.
So the team, it's funny. There was a lot of talent on that team, but you guys were struggling into February. You were 6-9 in the conference. Then you start to pick it up. You win 4 out of your last 5 going into the NECs. This is your chance right here. And the first game, you got to go to a Wagner team, one of those Jermaine Hall teams that was really good, that would win the title the following year. You're going into that building. You go in and you win there, which was impressive to me at the time. Did that win, how big a win was that for the program?
Well, twofold. I missed 11 games during that stretch in January and February. I was out with a back. I didn't think I was coming back. They thought my career was over. I didn't think I was playing again. So I go into basically the middle of February with the doctor telling me I'm not going to play again. And there was a point I made a decision. I'll deal with the consequences and decide. So I came back with 3 games left in the regular season, and we ended up winning, I think, our last 2 games. I know we won on senior day, and then we go into the conference tournament at Wagner. And I remember that game very vividly because I loved playing at Wagner. I was always comfortable playing against them. Derek's teams played really fast and helter-skelter, and I knew I was going to get open shots in those games, playing the open floor, and I loved playing, and I loved shooting in that gym. I always played well in that gym. So I think we went in there confident that we could win. I mean, I felt like if I didn't miss 11 games that year, our record would have been a little bit different. And so we go in, we beat a really good Wagner team with Jermaine Hall, and I think that was one of the better games we played that year. And it wasn't a surprise. We thought we were good. Like we walked in that gym thinking we can win. It wasn't one of those upsets where they didn't play well. No, I think we were just as good as them. We walked in that gym thinking we were going to beat them.
You move on to the semis. The first 2 rounds were at Wagner that year. So you play a UMBC team, Peter Mulligan team. That was another super team. You win that. You find yourself after a 9-9 league season. You are in the final. Okay, this is your big chance here. You are going to Central Connecticut. Now, this is one of the best teams in league history. They were 19-1 in the league. They won 27 games. All, Hall of Fame type players on that team. Was your confidence level the same as it was after Wagner, and how are the practices leading up to that game?
I could barely walk at that point. The UMBC game I barely played. I played like 35 minutes against Wagner. I think I may have played 5 minutes against UMBC. I could barely walk. I think coach put me in at the end of the game. They were fouling. I made a couple of free throws. I barely practiced that week, so I could try and be prepared to play. But I remember after our last practice, I practiced the day before. We stayed in the hotel the night before the Central game. I remember I practiced the day before, and I remember talking to Sean Barker from the New Haven Register, talking about the season, the story, exciting matchup, rivalry game. I remember we ended the interview. He was like, "You're going to beat those guys." I said, "I know." And I really believed we were going there and we were going to win. Like, in my mind and in our minds, like, we were going to win the NEC championship. We were going to the NCAA tournament. And I don't think there was a doubt in anyone on that team's mind that that was going to happen.
That's awesome. So you get to game night, and I've said it a million times that was the best atmosphere of any NEC final that I've been at. 90 minutes before the game, the legions of fans are on both sides of half court, the gold on one side, the blue on the other side, and it's deafening. 90 minutes before the game. I've never seen anything like that since. When you walked in that gym that night, what was it like for you and the guys?
I just got goosebumps thinking about that moment right there. I was the first one to walk on the floor for warmups. So I'm one of these guys, nuts, that I got to get my shots up before a game. So I get in the locker room quick. I get dressed really quickly. I'm always the first one out on the floor. Like, I'm 30 seconds, not like the guys nowadays that takes our guys 37 minutes to get dressed. 30 seconds, my stuff's on. I'm on the court. I want to shoot by myself so I can get reps before anybody get out to you. I walk on the floor. I'm starting to shoot. My back is killing me. So I'm starting to shoot, and the whole gym is chanting Grasso sucks. I mean, the whole Central section. I'm the only one in the gym. Now I can't make a shot. So I'm missing shot after shot, and they're getting louder and louder. I was laughing as it was going on, but it was an unbelievable experience, because it's something at our level. Sometimes you don't get to feel an environment like that. I mean, it was, to me, I say to this day, and I've coached in NCAA tournaments, I've won conference championships, I've played at Kansas. It was the best environment I've ever been in my life. The place was rocking. And every time we go and play at Central, I talk to the radio guys, and we talk to them. They still talk about, and the Hartford current guys, they all talk about being the best basketball atmosphere they've ever seen in a college basketball game. And it was one of those things, and unless you were there or were part of it, like, I talked to people about it, it was unbelievable. It was really a special thing that I still, to this day, think about that game really often. Like, not winning that game is something that still sits on me to this day. I'm going to turn 40 next week, and still to this day, there's nights I'll lay up at night and think about, there's a play where Rob Monroe was pushing the ball on the left side of the floor. I made 4 threes in a row in the first half. He's on the left foul line extended. I was on the right wing, and he didn't skip the ball to me. He drove it and missed a floater. And I'm still angry today that he didn't skip it to me, because I was about to make my 5th 3 in a row, and I told Bill Mecca, I'm about to make 5 threes in the first half today. And Mecca, every 3 I made, I looked over at Bill Mecca, who was doing the game on the radio. So I wanted him to skip the ball out to me so I could get my 5th 3. The problem was, then we went to halftime, and Howie wouldn't let me get a touch in the second half. So I made my 4 threes in the first half, and then they face guarded me the rest of the game.
It was an unbelievable experience. So your career ends that night. It was a close game, really good game. Central wins. So you finish your career. I'm looking at some of the numbers: over 1,100 points, 400 assists, 200 plus 3-pointers. When it was over, was there a feeling of satisfaction from an individual and team perspective about what the program accomplished during your time?
I mean, I think initially, no. Initially, I was completely heartbroken because I wanted to go to the NCAA tournament so badly. And I knew that was going to be the end of my career because of my back. So it was very hard for me. Like, the day we lost that game, I was inconsolable because I knew I was done. My back was a mess. I knew I was going to have surgery. Like, I knew my career was over. And that was a really hard thing for me, that I wasn't going to be able to play competitive basketball anymore. But as time went on and I was able to look back and able to reflect, when you get the personal piece out of it, something I'm really proud of. You know, that me and Bill's, again, my best friend, we came in and we were ranked last in the country when we went to Quinnipiac. No one knew what Quinnipiac was. Division II school, won 4 games. And 4 years later, you're playing on ESPN, one of the best environments in college basketball, a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. So I think it's something me and him talk about every time we see each other, is we were able to really bring something to a high level in 4 years. And it's what we talked about when we got to campus. When we got together, we just thought we were going to win because we thought we were good players. We just kind of had that air about us that we're going to figure out a way to win. We're going to win here. And to be able, we learned how hard it was. It wasn't as easy as we thought it was going to be. But to
Right.
bring that program to that level, and then for Quinnipiac to go where it's gone since, is something we are very proud of.
Let's time shift for a second. Fast forward 12 years, you're inducted into the Quinnipiac Hall of Fame. Uh, Bill is in the Hall of Fame. You went in with Bill, correct?
Yeah.
And then Nate was in a couple of years earlier. How special was that for you, especially going in with Bill Romano, to be able to look back on your time as sort of pioneers of Quinnipiac hoops in the Division I era?
Yeah, there were two really special things about that. One, going in with Bill was the best thing. I mean, I'm so glad they did that because that was my brother, and we did it together. We could celebrate it together, and the memories we have together will last a lifetime. And then the second piece was, like I said, being the son of a coach, my bond with my dad was my best friend. My dad was my everything. And for him to be there as in kind of the later years of his life as he wasn't doing great physically, and to be able to see that and see how proud he was, because there were, you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in 95-degree gyms with no air conditioning on Sunday afternoons at 4 o'clock when guys were at the beach, of him rebounding for me, getting shots up, not because I love to do it and he was a great father. And to be able to have him see the smile on his face and know that he got some satisfaction out of seeing that too, and to see how proud he was the best moment of all that for me.
That's awesome. Let's talk about Joe DeSantis. I love Joe DeSantis. I didn't love him so much when he was a coach, but I love him now, and he's a great announcer for the NEC. How important of a mentor was he to you, both at your time at Quinnipiac and since then?
Playing for Joe, he was tough. He was fiery. He got after you. There's times I probably hated him because he was yelling at me every day and get tougher, play harder, but it helped. I needed it. At the time, you don't know. That's you can look back 20 years later and say, I probably needed everything he was saying to me. And he was the right coach for me. It was the right system. I picked the right coach to play for. But there was times we butted heads. I probably thought I knew more than I did, or maybe I was right sometimes, but I was a little bit hard-headed. And, Joe is stubborn and tough, but I loved playing for him. I loved his competitiveness and how he'd fight for us. He had our backs. He cared about us, and I always knew he had our back, and I always knew we'd fight for him. I remember playing Robert Morris at our place, and it was the first game I came back from my back. I hadn't practiced, and he just played me. Like, I owe so much to him for the fact that he played me those games my senior year into the playoffs. And I remember him saying in the press conference after we lost to Central about me playing with the back injury, and he said, I owe it to Jared. I'll play him until he can't walk anymore. And that quote to me was the most very moving to me, because he gave me an opportunity. He didn't need to play me. The team was playing well going into the tournament. I wasn't a shell of the player I was. I could make an open shot, but I couldn't move. But he still went with me because of how hard I worked for my career, and I think I gave the program everything I could. And our relationship after that has grown into, he's a father figure to me. Outside of my dad who passed, he's one of the 2 or 3 people that I go to any major decision I'm going to make in my life. Joe DeSantis is someone I'm going to pick up the phone and call, because I know he's going to tell me the truth. Whether it's what I want to hear or not, he's always going to tell me the truth, and he's always going to try and do what he feels is best for me. And I know he's somebody I can trust. So our relationship has really grown more and more over the years to now he's someone that is a confidant I talk to at least once a week. And I've never made a major decision in my life without consulting with Joe first.
When you're in college, you're talking about your injuries, you say, I know my career's over. Is there a point during your collegiate experience where you think that coaching is a viable route for you?
I knew I was going to coach since I was 15 years old. I knew when playing was over, I wanted to coach. So when I was in college, I was just taking classes to get through school because I was going to be a basketball coach like my dad was. I was a daddy's boy, and I'm going to follow daddy's lead, and I want to coach. I love being in the gym. I love what dad does. And I just grew up. It's all I knew. So I knew at that age, 15, 16 years old, that I'm coaching when I'm done playing. So as much as you want to keep playing because you love it and the competitiveness and you're a player, then there's that slide from going from player to coach. And it was hard at first. I thought I wanted to be a coach, but that first year, I was a grad assistant at Hofstra, and that transition from player to coach for me was difficult because I still had the mindset of a player, and I did want to be playing. I don't know if I did as good a job as a graduate assistant in my first year as I could have, because in my mind, I still want to be a basketball player. I don't know if I was quite ready to be a coach yet, to be honest.
So you started Hofstra, you go to Hartford, back to Quinnipiac, then to Fordham. Your last year at Fordham, you wind up taking over as interim coach for part of the season. What did you learn from that experience?
I was on the phone with the junior college coach this morning, just talking about he was a young head coach. It was the best 3 months of my life, and we didn't win many games. I learned everything I needed to about what being a head coach is all about. Moving over those 18 inches is a major, major change. Your life changes, your responsibilities change, and I learned it on the fly. You know, you're always preparing to become a head coach, but you think, right, I'm at my press conference, I'm gonna meet my players, I'm gonna like this, the usual way that would go, not my boss is gonna be removed and the next day I'm gonna be a coach and then I'm gonna be coaching a game a day later. So I was thrown through the fire, and it was just adjust and let's figure this out. And I learned a lot on the fly, good and bad. I think I became a lot better for it. Was I ready? I don't know. Our team wasn't very good, so it's hard. I think my kids played hard for me. I think we did some things recruiting wise. I got 5 commitments as an interim head coach. I was running the program like it was going to be mine. That's what I was told to do. So I was out recruiting, I was fundraising, I was doing all those things because they said run the program like you're going to be the next head coach here. So I actually had 5 commitments, 4 of whom ended up being really good Division I players. But we didn't win a lot of games. So what I learned was you need to win to keep your job. But moving over those 18 inches and those 3 months gave me the vision of what I needed to do to become when I become a head coach again, the things I do differently and how I prepare differently. So I think it was the best thing that ever happened in my career, to be honest with you.
After Fordham, you have this unbelievable 8-year run at Iona, 5 MAC titles, 3 in a row. At one point, you recruit all these great players come in under Tim. What's the key for you to recruiting at this level?
I mean, I think evaluation is the biggest piece. We went 2 ways. At Iona, we were really good in the transfer market, and we got some real under-the-radar guys with no Division I scholarship offers. So everyone looks at those groups. And again, it's funny. Yesterday, I was watching one of the Iona One Shining Moments, and I was looking at the players on one of the teams, and I was like, oh, my God, we were good. Like, there were like 9 guys on that team that would be first-team all-league players right now. Like, 4 or 5 years later, if they were in the league now, we literally had 9. Our 9th man on the 2016 team started at Purdue this year. So that's how good that team was. But he didn't have any Division I scholarship offers when we took him. He ended up transferring. We had guys, we had A.J. English, no Division I scholarship offers, 2,000-point scorer. Sid Casimir, no Division I scholarship offers, 1,500-point scorer. So it was kind of a combination of some high major transfers, some JUCO transfers and older guys, and then some good evaluations of high school guys who were the right fit for Tim's system. And I also did work for arguably the best basketball coach in the country, who's a wizard. So you put that kind of talent together, and then you have such a great coach. It was a perfect storm.
You spent 8 years there. I'm sure along the way there were some jobs along the way that were probably attractive to you. But in 2018, you get your chance at Bryant. What made the Bryant program attractive to you to leave a really good situation at Iona?
It's funny. When I came up for my first interview, I got there early. It was snowing. I kind of took a little walk around campus, and the place was beautiful. And I was just walking around. You kind of get a feeling. I was like, I'm going to get this job. And I was involved with the other head coaching jobs at that point. I had just come back from interviewing somewhere, so I had some other things going on. And I actually was offered another job before Bryant offered me their job. I was on campus and just kind of got a feeling. I said, I think I'm going to get this job. I think they were bringing about 7 or 8 guys in for on-campus interviews. And I walked in there and just, it felt right. It actually felt Quinnipiac-ish to me in terms of the campus and just the kind of the family feel of the place. And this was just walking around campus. Then I had a chance to meet with the administration, meet with Bill, and after sitting down with Bill and then Ron Makeley, I mean, the leadership was unbelievable, and their vision for what they want Bryant athletics to be, and in turn what they wanted the basketball program to be, was really eye to eye with what I was looking for. And I thought it was a place my family could be happy, and a place where we could be successful doing it the right way by working really hard, bringing in good kids, bringing in student athletes, and most importantly, it's such a family atmosphere. My family and children and my wife are such a big part of this for me. Like, this isn't just my own journey. My family is part of this journey, and I wasn't going to take a job somewhere that they couldn't be a part of it. And it's great because they can be around. I live 7 minutes from campus. My wife can stop by. My boys stop by practice. I bring my son to press conferences with me. That's because of the way I grew up around the game. That stuff's very important to me, that they can be a part of my coaching journey, and I can hopefully raise them the same way I was raised.
Competitively speaking, Bryant had a really good, they had like a 3-year run from 12 to 15 where they were, near the top of the conference. They've fallen on hard times. It was a 2-win league season the year before you got there. There was some talent for sure. You had, Adam Grant and Duba and Towns were there for you. What were your initial goals when you took over your first season with what you knew you had coming in and who you knew you had coming back?
I mean, my goal is always going to be to win a championship. So that's what we talked about from jump. Now, those guys had to learn. It sounds good. Like, we all want to talk about winning championships, and we all want to talk about how hard we're going to work, but you guys don't know what hard work is yet. And I think it was a little bit of, this is the way I do things. Tim O'Shea had a good run and very good basketball coach. Now we're going to do things a little differently. And just teaching them my style, my culture, the way we were going to handle ourselves every day, the way we were going to work every day. And for them, it was an adjustment. Early on, some of them, I think, were looking around like, what just hit us? So, guys, I went to 3 NCAA tournaments in a row. I know what it takes. You just got to believe. And that first group, we had some injuries. Ike Naduba was out for the year. It wasn't an overly talented group from top to bottom. Those kids played really hard for me. I thought they competed. I thought they fought and played really hard every night. I don't know if we were talented enough to get to the level we wanted to, but made the conference tournament, and I think we took the first step in the right direction. We were the only team in the country to triple our win total. So for me, the biggest thing was kind of getting our culture in place, and I think we did that.
Were you, by the year's end, were you satisfied with the progress that the team made from the start of the year to the end of the year?
Absolutely. I remember December 9th, I want to say, we played Yale at home. I mean, we got drubbed. They probably beat us by 50. I walked upstairs, sat down in my office, head in my hands. I was like, we're in trouble. And we just went back to work. We just worked. And we just kept working and working. And my thing was, remember on December 12th, we completely changed the way we played. We were playing fast early on, shooting a lot of threes, playing transition. We just didn't have the ability to do that. We weren't talented enough. So I scrapped it, started walking ball up the floor, grinding games out. From December 12th until the start of league play, we decided we're changing what we're doing. We called it training camp, and it worked. We ended up playing Iowa December 29th, had them on the ropes. It was a tie game with 2 minutes left. Yep. Won our first league game against St. Francis, and we were very competitive in the league. Even games we lost, every game was a close game. Losing St. Francis PA in the first round of the conference tournament, we lost 64-60. We were right there. So I think we took steps in the right direction. Those kids kept working and kept competing.
As you said, your team tripled the win total, so there was some good progress made that year. You head to this past season, you bring in some more talent. You got Michael Greene and Benson Lynn and Charles Pride and Paul Ligis. A lot of talent. Did the influx of talent that came in, did that change the way you approached the season style-wise to do things that you wanted to do the previous year but you couldn't?
You know what? Closer. But we still had Bash Towns coming back, and obviously Bash's season didn't go the way we wanted with the injury. So we'll play much faster moving forward than we ever have before. This year we'll look like a different team. So we were going to play differently, but I still had Bash, and I wanted to play through Bash because he made such strides. He had a really good junior year. So it was a strange deal early on because Bash was out. So we're practicing a certain way, but when he comes back, he makes you a little bit different. He's a really good player. And we kind of went through 3 seasons almost where our team changed, and I had to figure out how we were going to play with this group of guys. So I think we had a stretch. We were very good defensively early on and kind of found our identity defending. But I never really got our group to play the way I thought we would because our team with injuries and guys coming back and out and back and out and never had the group that I thought I was going to have going into the season.
With those three freshmen that came in, it's like a two-part question. Did you think that they could have the impact that they did? And I guess the other part of it is, is there some nerves as a head coach to do the sort of the trial by fire approach where you're going to put them out there and let them sink or swim?
I knew those kids could play, and I knew they had really good work ethics. Guys who are gym rats, I trust. If I trust you, I play you. And those guys work really hard and put a lot of time into basketball. And Benson Lynn has the best work ethic of anyone I've ever coached in my career. Hands down, it's not even close. Spends more time in the gym than anybody I've ever seen. And I've coached a lot of good players with good work ethics. Charles Pride and Mike Greene are all in the gym all the time. So because of the way those guys are wired, there was a trust level with me early on. Now, I like guys who are like me. I like gym rats. I like guys who love to be in the gym. I want guys who love to play basketball because I have a major passion for it, and I want to be around guys who have the same passion. And those three had it. So I was going to give those guys some rope. And those guys, they were talented guys. You know, they earned what they got. They didn't just play because I was throwing freshmen. They were my better players. I'm going to play my best players. I'm trying to win. That's my job. Those guys were my best players when I was playing them, and all of them had some really good games as freshmen. And then you add that, yes, they were thrown to the fire. Best thing that ever happened to any of them. You know, Mike Greene was exhausted by the end of the season. I remember talking to his dad with like 2 games left. He's like, he's shot. I said, well, you better figure it out because he's playing 38 minutes a game and he's my best player right now. So, but, you know, he's a tough little kid. And he didn't have a Division II scholarship offer when we took him. He was the NEC Rookie of the Year. Why? Because there's a toughness and a swagger to him, and he fits me. When I went to Quinnipiac, at that point, when I signed with Quinnipiac, I had no Division I scholarship offers left. I like guys like that with a chip on their shoulder. I think those guys tend to overachieve, and I think those 3 guys you named are going to be overachievers.
Another player last year we mentioned was Hall Elijahs. Now, a couple things with him. Is it a luxury to have a rim protector like that, which not everybody has? And 2 is, and I noticed this a lot, maybe you'd be on a bad run, you'd call a timeout, you're coming out of these timeouts, and you're running these screen and roll, alley-oop, DeAndre Jordan-like plays for him that worked a lot. To have a guy who can play that screen and roll style with your quick guards, how important is he to the success of your team?
Yeah, Hall's unique. I mean, he's obviously an elite level athlete, elite level shot blocker, and he played the second half of the year completely banged up. I mean, where he was at in like the end of December until right before our FDU game, so I don't know the dates, but like he was really good. He hit his stride where he was healthy. I mean, he was freakish athletically. He had games with 8, 9 blocks. He had a game with 8 blocks in the second half. And like you said, he can put pressure in the rim. So when you have little quick guards and you're putting them in ball screens and you have Hall rolling to the rim, there better be rim protection or it's going to be a dunk. So he does make your team dynamic. Separated his shoulder, then had a sprained ankle, so missed 4 or 5 games, and he was never back to his healthy self the rest of the way. So I think he struggled a little bit down the stretch, but he's a unique talent, and I mean physically he's as gifted as anyone I've been around, and I think he has a chance to have a really good year for us this year if he can use this offseason the right way.
We saw the end of Adam Grant's career this year. What an outstanding ball player. One of my favorites. He always seemed to show up in the big games. We always looked throughout his whole career. This year against Rutgers, he went 23, 6, and 6. Always playing his best against the best. What made him such a great player in your mind?
I mean, he got to go and making shots. There was nothing you could do to stop him from scoring. And I didn't have to run any plays for him. He was just going to find the ball and get a shot up. He's actually really unique that he loves shooting threes off the bounce. So he'd catch the ball open, want a shot fake, take a dribble, and take a more difficult shot. Like, he's a hard shot maker. He'll miss open ones, but he'll make shots from 27 feet, falling away. But he's Absolutely. A high level shooter. And like you said, at Rutgers, at Maryland, at Iowa, those big time games, he was always up for those games and always made big time shots. And he'd always make those silencing threes. You know, you'd be up 8 and the team would be making a run and he'd bury a 25-footer. So obviously we'll miss his explosiveness offensively and the way he could shoot the ball.
One of the more satisfying games this year, not just for you and Bryant, but probably for the whole league, is when you go into Fordham and you beat an A-10 team on the road pretty convincingly, sort of going away at the end. How satisfying was that for you in establishing your program?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big step for us to win a money game, an Atlantic 10 game. You know, anytime you can go on the road and win a money game, I think it's big for a program at our level. And Bryant had never beaten a team in the Atlantic 10. Obviously, I coached it for them, so I had some family and friends there. So it was nice for me getting back to New York with family and friends, able to see it. So I think it was a great win for our program. And it's the kind of thing, again, you're just trying to springboard and get better every year. For me, it's about taking the next step, and that was a step for us. Never had an Atlantic 10 win. It was our first bye win. So just a step moving forward.
I know that for you, and you say it all the time, that packing the Chase Center is important to you and getting that fan support. And one of the games that stands out to me this year was the Columbia game, where Simmons comes down, steals the ball, dunks it at the end to win the game for you. Place is going berserk. Was this sort of what you envisioned when you took the job, what you want it to be from moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. My first game as a head coach, we were playing St. Peter's. There were about 27 people in the stands. I looked around. I was like, not a lot of atmosphere here right now. And a year later, you talk about that Columbia game or our Brown game, our opener. I mean, it was basically standing room only crowd, and that's what we want. We want it to be an atmosphere. We want to put a product on the floor that people want to see. And again, you got to win games for people to come. You got to be competitive, which obviously we've turned the corner to be competitive this year. And I think we put a good product on the floor. Kids play really hard. I think it's an exciting style of play, and I think we've really turned the corner in our attendance. I think it's something that's going to continue to move forward because we have a great staff who does a phenomenal job getting people in the building.
So the team is off, and the team struggles at the beginning of conference play. You have a great non-conference season. You're struggling, but every one of your press conferences, you're very consistent in your messaging. That I'm not worried. We're going to figure this out. My guys are playing hard. What led you to believe that you could change everything by the end of the season and get it all straightened out?
So I've been through it before. You know, I've got coach teams that went to the NCAA tournament where we struggled at different parts of the season. It's such a long year. You're going to go through it at some point. And when you see your team every day, you know, you guys are still dialed in and still working hard, you're going to turn the corner at some point. We lost 4 or 5 games that we could have won. I think at that point we had led in the last 8 minutes maybe of 5 of those 7 losses. So you're right there. So what do you have to do? Get back in the gym and get better. And I was confident we were going to be able to do that. So I wasn't panicked. Like, if I know our culture's right, I know we're working hard every day, I know our guys are doing the right things, I'm not one of those guys who panics over a loss. I don't panic over 3 losses because you're going to go through it. It's a long season. You're together for a long time. Only really, really special elite teams, and you're talking about this only at the highest level, go through the year unscathed. You're going to have some problems. You're going to have some bumps in the road. Sometimes you have to readjust and figure it out, and I felt like that was going to happen.
The team did better second half of the season, much better. Did you implement any changes along the way, or was it a matter maybe of some of your young guys just getting a little more seasoned in, you know, the art of finishing out a game, or maybe it's both?
I think it was a couple things. I think we got a little healthier. We got Hall Elias back. You know, he missed, I want to say, 4 games. And we were managing multiple injuries through that stretch. So I think we got a little healthier. I think Mike Greene really started playing his best basketball late in the year. He kind of carried us down the stretch. A couple of those wins at St. Francis, New York. And, I mean, he put us on his back and carried us. Wagner at home, I think he had 15 points in the second half. So he wasn't a freshman anymore. And we started making some shots that we didn't make in some other games, like very similar games. We just made some of the shots that we missed in other games. Why does that happen? I wish I had the answer. I'm going to keep trying to figure it out. But you know, when you're playing 3 freshmen that many minutes, and Hall Elias, who's another new guy, it's a lot of new guys. And as the year went on, I think those guys, especially the freshmen, started to kind of figure out. And I told them this was going to happen, but you don't learn until you go through it. Winning's hard. Like, just because we beat Fordham or played Maryland close, like, nobody cares. We beat St. Francis PA the first game. No one cares. Winning in this league is really hard. Every game is a battle. Home, road, first place, last place, doesn't matter. Winning's hard. They learn that, and it's going to help them down the line.
Those 3 freshmen, they win 9 Rookie of the Week awards. Mike Greene's Rookie of the Year. Benson's on the All-Rookie team. Charles is as good as any of those guys. Let's talk about Mike Greene for a second. We've talked about him a little bit, but I love him because he's one of those New York City guards. He's got that swagger about him in his game that I love to watch. How good can that player? How good can he be?
Mike's got a chance to be special. Because of what you said, he has that New York City confidence and swagger, and he thinks he can play, and he's fearless. I mean, I threw him out there in our Brown game. He came off the bench. We're down 14-2. I threw him out there, and he's just ready to go. And he got us back in that game in his first Division I basketball game. So he's confident, he's tough, he's a worker, and he fears nobody.
One of the things that was different about the team last year was the emphasis on rebounding. Went from last in rebounding margin, your second this year. How much emphasis was this to you in both the recruiting process to get players that can do that, and then actually going out and doing it?
I think it was more just something that we emphasize more. If we're going to get out in transition, we need to rebound. We can get extra shots on the offensive end if we offensive rebound. So for us, it was just a much bigger emphasis because of our personnel. We thought we had a group. Charles Pride's a really good rebounding guard. Pat Harding could rebound, and Hall could rebound. So with those three guys, we really wanted to chase it on the glass a little more this year.
Looking forward to next year, what does Bryant need to do to become a legit NEC title contender in your mind?
I mean, I really like the group we have. I like our talent level. I like our character. I like our work ethic. Until I see them together, it's a hard, it's so hard with everything going on right now. We didn't have our guys in the spring. Questions on obviously what's going to happen in the summer. But I think we have a good group. I think we'll be a little older, a little more mature. Freshmen aren't freshmen anymore. We're on some older transfers that have kind of been around the block and have been through some high-level games and played in high-level programs. So I think if our guys are committed to working really hard every day and buying into what we do, there's no reason we can't compete to win a championship.
Having a coach on, and I've wanted to ask Coach this for a while, things have changed so much since you were a player as far as analytics. How important is that to you and your program as far as the players you recruit, your practices, and your game prep?
I mean, I use it a ton. I have a director of analytics on my staff, so I use it a ton. I'm really into it. For me, he gives me a bunch. There's certain things I want, and then he'll just throw information at me at times. Some stuff I like and use, some stuff I'll pass by, but something we are really into. And I think you're crazy if you don't utilize it because numbers are numbers. Numbers don't lie. So when you're talking to players, and I'm for me a lot with teaching points, like, no, that's not a good shot for you because you shoot 12% on pull-up jump shots. So that's why you can't shoot that shot anymore. Like when the number's not involved, they don't see it. When you show them the stat, it hits them in the face a little harder and they don't want to hear it. But numbers are numbers. So I use them a lot. I think you'd be crazy not to, and I'm blessed to have a director of analytics on my staff who's a student at school that's going to be phenomenal.
Couple more questions. Just talking about the NEC, what would you say are the major differences, if there are any, between when you played and now in this conference?
Well, I don't think there's been a team like that Central team the last 2 years. I mean, I always think of Corsley Edwards and John Tice. And I mean, I remember having 25 against Central in a game my freshman year. And then we went to Central and I had Rick Mickens guarding me. Like, that was a really, really good team. So I haven't seen a team as good as that group since I've been in the league. But I don't remember the parity like this. Like, I don't remember it being every game. Like, to me, every game is close. Every game is a dogfight. I feel like every game we're in. And as a player, I didn't feel like that. So the parity of the league right now, I think, is at a really high level.
One of the things about the league now is that the coaches are high-level coaches in the way they go about their business. You're going up against your Tools and your Crimmels and your Horrendous, your Breakers, all these guys night after night. How hard is that, knowing that how successful they've been as game planners and game administrators?
Yeah, no, listen, this is a league with terrific coaches who do a great job recruiting and a lot of guys who have won a lot of games. So for me, I'm one of the young guys in the league who's still trying to figure it out. And there's a lot of guys who have had a ton of success for a long period of time, some guys for a shorter period of time. But you never walk into a gym. You're coaching against high-level coaches who have won a lot, beaten high major teams, gone to NCAA tournaments. So you know your player's in for a battle, and as a coach, you're going to be in for a battle every night.
You as a player transitioned from D2 to D1. Merrimack did that this year. How impressive was what they did to you, the way they were able to come in and win the regular season? Yeah,
I mean, Joey Gallo should have won National Coach of the Year.
Agreed.
It goes to two things. Joey did a phenomenal job with that team. And when I say he should have won National Coach of the Year, I really mean that. Number two, it shows that upperclassmen at the Division II level, there's not a huge difference between those guys and the guys at our level. You know, there's a very fine line in all of this. It's not, there's the elite guys. There's the guys who are playing at the Blue Bloods that are going to be NBA players and lottery picks. But there's a fine line between the rest of them. And if you can get a group who care about each other, are willing to play hard, willing to buy into a system, and are coachable, then you can win games. It just goes to show you it's not necessarily the most talented team. It's a team who plays the best together. And they were the team who played the best together this year.
Last question. I ask this as the last question to almost everybody. What makes Bryant such a special place?
I think Bryant offers the total package for a student athlete. Talking about great academics, beautiful campus, in a beautiful area, great facilities, unbelievable leadership around Makeley, and great new president coming in, unbelievable athletic director with Bill Smith. So I really believe it's a total package. It's the reason I took the job here. I was offered a job, but it's for a team that won 20 games the year before. Coach left and took a job at a higher level, and I took the Bryant job because of everything it has to offer. I really believe it is the total package for a student athlete who wants to have a great academic experience, play high-level Division I basketball, and a chance to be successful for the rest of their lives because they're going to leave with a degree from Bryant.
Well, there it is. Jared Grasso, a 4-year student athlete in the NEC at Quinnipiac, now about to enter his 3rd year as head coach at Bryant. Jared, thanks so much for spending some time reminiscing, walking down memory lane. It was a lot of fun prepping for this and then talking to you as I saw you as a student athlete and now 20 years later as a coach.
I appreciate it, Ron. Really enjoyed it.
Best wishes to you and your family riding this whole thing out, and hopefully you'll be able to get back on the court. And everyone will soon. So good talking to you.
Stay safe. My best to your family.